Yeah, he was all gung ho.
He was done all. Oh, I don't think so, but we'll run with that, you know.
Alright, you guys, just as a reminder, Tom, you're new, but you're live on YouTube right now. So,
11-2.
keep everything good.
You just want to wear that, that camera this way, so you can,
We'll get it through more ways, and then at 9:05, just like that, started.
What the hell that pumping was.
Hey, young, my fat ass coming up. We have municipal court today. We have a lot of time to be municipal court. We have nothing. I mean, no one's here. Oh, what's her? You got 2 hours.
Guess we could turn the lights on.
yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. She's on the right side, she got to no problem.
We'll go ahead and start in another minute, Nora. We can get started at 9:05. First item on. I guess so, May Day, that was famous. We've done some, Nicole.
I have made that.
You have May baskets.
You know,
I didn't know about May
you
baskets.
didn't know about me?
No, I apologize.
You know? Nobody
No,
ever
no.
made that?
Mm-mm.
You're supposed to take the May basket and leave it on somebody's doorstep. And it's full of goodies or flowers or, it's Happy May. Ring the bell and run.
Oh,
And then
and
go
yeah.
around the corner and watch them come out.
Nowadays, they call the cops and say, hey, they're my people.
Or they're watching you anyway because there's a
Well,
camera.
I could see that in the 60s and 70s, but,
Or they're watching you through a camera.
yeah, my camera's watching you on the front porch.
So,
Okay, let's get this meeting to order. Roll call.
right here.
Definitely, yeah, so I would start here, go back to that corner over there.
So no,
Actually, so
Measure on this side.
for the record, we have board members Camilla Campbell, Tom Kress, and Craig Stevens.
How are you, Monica?
Hi there, how are you, man?
Approval of minutes.
You look very familiar.
Okay, how are you?
Second motion.
Oh, hi, Sam. Nice meeting
Any
you.
questions, Tom? You
It's a
would do.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
I don't know where I'm
Okay.
I understand.
Okay. You want to check, I second.
You know I don't, I'm sorry.
Motion, is that correct?
Look,
And seconded by Camilla.
I'm sorry for everything that's going on.
All in favor? And turn to the financial report. I'll take a motion to approve, and then we'll have a discussion after we have a motion in a second. Do we have a motion to approve the financial report?
This one right
So
here.
we
Oh,
approve it
no,
and
wait
then
a
look
We
minute.
at
make
it?
a motion in a second, and then we have a discussion.
Motion.
Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Camilla. Do we have a second? Second by Craig. Okay, let's run through the financial report. So
Okay.
this is the first quarter. Introduce Tom and Karen, is this your first tourism meeting as well? So we'll run through it. So the middle column is the 2018 budget. This is the budget that was approved by City Council in December of 2018. I've included broken it out into line items and 4 buckets. So one is the administration bucket. I want to go through each line item. Wages and benefits are the portion that the tourism board pays for the media and tourism administrator position, which is 50% of that position. Travel, training, and mileage, covers the board's travel if you go to conferences, and it also covers staff's travel when traveling on behalf of the board at the board's request. Office expenses, these are different types of things, should we have to order small equipment or office equipment. Marketing and contracts is the second bucket. There are 4 or 5 different line items. One is outside contract services. So these include contracts that you approve. Right now, so far, we have approved the Studio 6 Visitors Guide contract, and you'll see that we have charges in the amount of $10,900 in the first quarter of this year toward that contract. Advertising and publications, this includes Wix, which is your website, discoverytrinidad.org. It includes Miles Media, that's your advertisement in the Colorado State Vacation Guide. It includes Philip Broadcasting, that's a regular contract you have with KCRT. The Rocky Mountain Business Journal and the Business Expansion Journal, which were approved in your board meetings thus far this year. You've spent $22,119.68 in the first quarter of your total budgeted $53,000 amount. Billboards, this is Outfront Media and Look Media, so the expenditures there are $2,780. Kiosks, wayfinding, and signage, this was something Mr. Taylor put into the budget. We're anticipating, based on our budget discussion we had with the board in February, that we'll not actually expend this on kiosks, wayfinding, and signage this year, that'll probably be used for other things like the advertising and other things. Local festival funding. This doesn't incorporate April expenses, so I know at your last meeting with the minutes we just approved, you had some expenditures for local funding, $3,000 for Trout Unlimited, and I believe it was $15,000 for Blues Fest. The next section is the trolley. We've had no trolley expenditures, and you'll see when we get later on into the agenda, when I put together this financial report, we discovered that we hadn't paid Mr. Iupa thus far for storage for the trolley. So you're gonna see an expenditure today that'll be January through May. So normally you would see that in that building lease and storage. Vehicle repair and maintenance is just the $1,000 that's budgeted. It's for the items that might come up throughout the year. Lastly, welcome centers bucket, you have wages, you have operations, you have travel, training, and mileage, and volunteer enhancement. The welcome center staff is the wages and benefits. The operations include the telephone, the copier, and the coffee condiments there. So in the first quarter of January through May 31, you have expenditures in the amount of $51,687.69. That comes out of your annual budget, and that leaves you with still remaining to be spent this year, $212,363.31. Are there any line items that you have questions about? And is this a format you easily understand? Because we'll be updating this monthly. So next month, when you see it, it'll be January through April.
Sorry. I got stuck at the hotel and had to get upset, so.
I'm sorry, just a question.
Sure.
How come you don't put the tourism taxes income on here?
I will, that's a great point. So we will have revenue. I'm gonna flush this out and add it. There's 2 pieces that'll be added to the monthly report. One will be revenues, and when we flush that out, we'll have that. And then the other one will be your overall tourism balance. Not just the amount you have remaining to spend budgeted, but you also have an unbudgeted reserve. So I expect over the next month or 2 to be able to add those in. I gave you the information kind of as a basis of expenditures January through March. So that's an excellent point, and we will add those. So I expect by June, maybe July, we'll have the full picture, and then we'll maintain the full picture every month for you. This was our first time to put together a financial report.
Okay.
And then it'll also be a carryover of
Yes.
what was
So you'll see, Tom, the budgeted amount, and how your expenditures are going against your budgeted amount. And then you'll see an unbudgeted reserve that won't actually be touched unless you go to council and you ask council to release additional reserve toward expenditures.
Is, just for my information, is the tourism tax holding its own?
It is.
Continuing upward?
Yep.
Okay.
It is
The only,
right
the
now.
only year that it went down was, I think, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, that would make
I
sense.
wasn't on the board right then, but I remember, I was I was watching.
I would expect at 2 weeks in our meeting, we'll have the final 2017 numbers against budget. And then I would expect at the first meeting in June, we'll have revenues added to this report. And then the second meeting in June, we'll have tourism balance added. So our goal is to give you the full financial picture over the next 2 months and then maintain that every month. So up until now, I don't have any of you who have sat on the board in the past several years seen a annual financial report.
Well, yeah, we didn't at the end of this past year, but we have in the past, but we've been keeping up with quarterlies. And so to sort of.
Expenditures to budget side, have you been approving
No,
them in your
no,
meetings?
no,
Okay,
Jonathan did not put them, and we complained about it, but we did not get them. But just as a background, Karen, so you know, so last year's, compared to what we had in budget when we thought, we accrued about another additional $20,000 on lodger's tax than expected from the previous year.
Mhm.
So, and that's been going at about $10,000 to $20,000, you know.
Per year.
The first year, I think we get about 160,000, and now we're up to, and then we took a deep dive in 2009, 2010.
you overspent 2017 in an audit right now. The reason I don't have year-end numbers for you is we're rebalancing those right now. So,
What year
I
did that tax
expect-
start?
I'm
God,
sorry?
we're in our 12th year or 13th year now.
It was 2002.
2002?
Was it that long ago?
Yes.
2002,
I'm
okay.
thinking summer was,
baby,
yeah, because you think about when you're advertising.
So I guess we're in our 15th or 16th year.
I'd say 16.
And when we finish the 2017, Rosie's been coming back over to help with audit. I'll ask Rosie Blatnick to pull the report she had done at one point in time that showed annually what the amounts had been.
Is there like a printout of all the things that have been done since the beginning of the tourism board had started? Of things that the tourism board recommended to be done?
That, it would, given some time, Tom, I think that we could put that together from a staff level.
Yeah,
If
it
that
would be
would-
a
if that would be-
tremendous, Karen was on the board for years, it would be a tremendous amount of bulk of work.
Yeah.
If that was
Long,
interesting,
Yeah, it
then
would
we
be.
could do
It
that.
would be to me because I would like to see where we began and where we're at and where we're going.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, and some long-term goals maybe.
okay.
And-
Well,
Yeah.
In
we
February.
were there at the
Oh,
beginning.
we were there, yeah. It was just a tremendous amount of bulk of work.
So
Things
all
that-
projects from inception?
And maybe one way that could happen, and I was gonna recommend, if you're not in any meetings for us to do too, is for the meeting notes to be sent to you if you can't attend. And then that way you would know for sure what happened during the meeting. But that's another way, is to go back and just pull all meeting notes and put those in a book, and then you could read through.
Right.
And,
Right.
and you could also see some of the things that were changed. And the few years that Jonathan was here, there were many things that were done right. There were some things that were not done right that we really were not.
I imagine now if anything starting,
Right.
you know, it's a
So-
live and learn thing.
So back to the financial report, what staff heard from you guys in February is that you wanted to start seeing the expenditures that had been spent. And so is there anything you have questions about from January through March? This incorporates everything that the council has approved thus far to the tourism fund. No questions? Okay. Then we would take a vote to approve this report. Did you have a question?
No, I really don't have a question. I just wanted to say an area that I think that falls into, and I'd really love to see. us fall back into again, is that we always signed off on bills.
If you, hold on, when we get to the agenda, we've got that
Okay,
today.
sorry.
Yep, yep, I heard that.
Okay, I approve,
All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Okay, so we have approval of our first financial report, so we'll stick to this format and have it fleshed out at every meeting. Okay, we're at there.
Okay. Petitions or communications, oral or written. I have a couple things, actually, it's really not a petition, but it is information. So Go Travel, this is from state of Colorado that gives us all those names. This is an annual bill, I haven't even opened it because I know that's what it is. And then on a second note for that, are we getting those out?
I'm going to be working on it, but.
Okay, okay,
in short, no.
okay. And,
And then I have some stuff too.
Just for clarification, we have two things on the agendas. We have petitions and communications, oral or written, and then we have reports by members. So I want to give you an example of what the two different things are so that you'll know as we're going through the agenda. If you've all been to a council meeting and you know that petitions and communications are things that come up in the daily course of life. I was stopped on the street and it was mentioned that we should be, the street sweeper should be coming. A petition or communication is a card or letter that you've received of thank you for some donation that you've done. It's a correspondence, it's a way to report on things that you've heard or seen. Reports by members, those are activities that you've done. So when Karen does her report by members at City Council, she's gonna report on attending this meeting and talk about what the work is going on with Tourism Board. So if you've attended something in the community and you wanna report back on that and how it's reflected on tourism, if you want things on the agenda for next time, that goes under reports by members. The broader discussion of things goes under report by members. Petitions and communications are things like, Craig, if you heard something and you want staff to note it in the minutes, then that's petitions and communications. If you've received a complaint from someone, that's petitions and communications. If you want to add something to next agenda or talk about it, then we do that under reports for members. Is there enough of a difference there that you both have? Okay, great. So petitions and communications.
well, we both probably, so probably just a few things. I was asked too again about the flowers downtown, and I said that the city was taking care of them this year, but just as commonality, since people are gonna ask us, because they think we know everything, because we were check.
Of course.
When, is there a date set for the?
There really isn't no date, they're gonna probably start moving them in. There is somebody hired,
Oh,
right,
okay,
that
good.
will do the hanging
That was
cloths
my
and
next-
the
They're painting
baskets.
holes,
Oh, nice.
And they're painting
spray
the poles
painting,
right
spray
now,
painting
so.
holes.
But they're coming in, they said something, Danny Rossetti said something about middle of May, 1st of May, they're gonna come in with the planter boxes and the hanging plants.
It usually happens right after Mother's Day.
Yeah, it depends, but
Just
usually,
delay.
I'm gonna, in defense, last year Mother Day, we had 2 feet of snow right
We
after
did,
that.
yeah,
So
right.
we couldn't plant until the end of May, so they're kind of, it's always a tipping gate, but they are doing the planter boxes and the hanging plants, yes,
Okay.
all right?
And there has been somebody that was hired that's just working on it.
There was.
Yes.
And is that person working already?
So petitions and communications usually don't exhibit discussion.
Okay.
No, they're not working yet. Yes, they're
Okay.
being interviewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay,
Just sticking to,
Just
trying to stick
sticking
to
to that,
some
yeah.
that's
format.
totally good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's my communication. This is, actually, I wish Carol were here because this is gonna be my last communication.
Okay,
So, and I don't wanna wait any longer.
that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Many of you, well, you don't know what I used to do before we moved to Trinidad. I was the guy in the big corporation. See that the only way to revitalize this town is through tourism. That's the only thing we've got. Tourism is it. You can't bring manufacturers in here. You don't have proper shipping channels. You just don't have anything else but tourism to go. So everything I'm going to tell you about has to do with tourism. The meetings, the most important meetings that this town has are the tourism meetings. I know the bludgeoning that city council takes is important, but there's a lot of garbage that you guys have to deal with. And it's not right. I don't go to the meetings just because I can't stand to watch what happens to you. And I apologize that happens to you. But the next important meetings is the tourism meeting, because it is the only thing that is gonna bring life to this town. Okay, so you need to not delay meetings, you don't skip meetings, you attend meetings. How many times have I been sitting in here by myself and I didn't know the meeting had been canceled or moved, and I'm just sitting here waiting for a meeting and I'm all alone? So stick to your meetings. The craft, if I would have known what the town was gonna get with the craft, I would have said no, and I would not have only said no, I would have said hell no. They have a curriculum. They got you guys so confused the other day. We were talking about marketing to the Chinese when the Texans are barreling over the pass with pockets full of money, looking for some place to stop and spend it all. Okay, so the craft is not helping the town. Okay, I did mention this to somebody, so you can't just tell a state to get out. Okay, but they're confusing. They're not helping. Okay, so who caters more to tourists than my business? And I've not seen a single one of them in trying to ask any questions of us. They have a plan, a curriculum, they're following that, and they don't know anything about our town. So they're hurting, not helping. Jonathan took some liberties that were improper, okay? But since Jonathan left, we have not accomplished anything. We have become inept as a group. We haven't gotten anything done. I'll give you two examples. The website, okay, we have a calendar that's empty.
But one of the problems with that, just to clarify that, is that Jonathan's the one that took the website back, and I begged him to put it back up so that we could refresh it, and he took it completely off.
Well, that has nothing to do with
today.
But he took it
Petitions
off.
and communications
I'm
or
making a
discussion
communication.
items.
I'm making a
We can
communication.
talk about that.
The trolley. We spent $300,000 to make a trolley that sits in a garage with the world's worst video. Nothing's been done. I've been talking about that since July. What you need, Tara, you're overworked. Put that down.
Yeah.
You are overworked and they've got you spread too thin, okay? We need somebody in charge, an action person that concentrates solely on business development and tourism, okay? That needs to be done. I was told I need to follow the rules. I couldn't fix things when I was trying to get the website thing done. I have a question about you, Tom, okay? What business do you have downtown? I thought that was in the bylaws. You don't have to answer me. I thought that was in the bylaws, that we had to have some sort of business downtown, and they could only be in 3 categories, okay? So I'm gonna leave you alone. There's another problem I have, but I'm gonna leave you alone. We'll talk about it privately. There's a culture in this town. I'm constantly shoveling dog crap out from in front of my building, my business, okay? We don't have anything set up to cover the trash. Do you think the sweeping that I do in front of my shop is my trash that I'm sweeping up? It belongs to somebody else. I don't throw stuff on the ground, okay? I don't have a dog, so it's not my dog's crap I'm cleaning up. So the culture, if the culture doesn't change, the town won't change. That's your main thing, is you gotta work on signs about the poop, you gotta work about signs, you gotta find people, you gotta get that handled, because it's gonna continue, and people are gonna come in here. You know, I've had people step in the stuff and walk in my shop
That's horrible.
with dog poop on their shoes, and I have carpet, okay? So those are my communications. I'm gonna let city council know that I intend to leave the board, and I'm gonna, I just don't feel that, I'm busy. I was able to fix a few things. I was able to fix the visitor's guide, I was able to work on some stuff, we were moving ahead, we were doing a pretty good job, but for the last 4 or 5 months, I haven't been able to fix anything. I'm beyond frustration.
I agree with you. I feel the same way in the
This is
sense
not a
of.
point for discussion at petitions and communication.
So I apologize, but I'm gonna leave now. And I'll leave it up to you guys, and you're overworked.
I will come by and see you. If you do intend to leave the board, please put a letter into
I
Audra so
will.
we can fill the
I will.
position.
I will. And I will take these.
Okay.
Love you.
Thanks, Craig.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. Did you get all that, Tom?
It's on. You're live.
Bye.
Take your water with you, Craig.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Policy items, the website?
Do we have any other petitions?
Because, you know, I don't know if this is, on that note,
So another difference, just so we know, petitions are when you make a statement and leave.
that Crafter 101
Yeah,
was dynamite for me.
we'll talk about that in
Yeah.
the reports for members.
Okay, thank you. All
Yeah,
right.
we will.
Okay, policy items, website?
So website, in reading the minutes from last time and then having a discussion with Craig, I understand the website that we have, which is discovertrinidad.org, is that correct? Is not updated, and it's correct. I looked at it, I went all over it. So I spoke with Monica, our IT director, because right now the city's undergoing a scan of all city websites for ADA accessibility. We've been through the first scan. She suggested we go ahead and hire someone to update the website really quickly. So what staff is suggesting that we do is, we're also doing the same thing with Creative District and with Develop Trinidad right now. What staff would like to do is place some calls the remainder of this week and get 2 or 3 quotes. Anything over 500 and less than 10,000, we can get quotes over the phone. And that we have them email the quotes. Now, the 2 options are, we can distribute those to you, and at our meeting on the 16th, you can authorize who should be chosen to update the website, or you can choose to authorize someone right now to work with staff, and when staff gets the 3 quotes, that tourism board member will help Raven and I choose who's gonna update it, and we'll get that moving. What is your, do you feel like the website needs to be updated?
Well, it does, and I could go on and on about it, but we need to address it. So I would just say as us being that we should go beyond that.
If Tom would like to also look at them, then we can solicit them this week. We can distribute them next week, and on Wednesday, the 15th, you can choose who's gonna do that. And we'll make part of that contract that it's updated by Memorial Day.
Okay.
So if we approve it on the 16th, that would give them the rest of the 16th through Friday, the 25th, to update the website. Now, what might happen in the interim is Miss Raven will identify all the things that need to go on there to update. Okay? So,
With that, you know, on the city site, when it has, there's a page, things to do, nowhere does it say events.
there's an event calendar on the bottom right corner. I looked at it after
The
looking
city
at
one?
tourism, and there's a lot of things that aren't on there. But that is people responding and asking for things to be put on there. It's not a proactive approach. And we'll cover the event planner position in just a second. And that person's job is gonna really be to keep the calendar up. When you look at our website, it's not just the calendar though. There's a lot of basic information that needs to be updated on it. So if this is something you wanna do, then Raven will start immediately going through every click on the website and making notes for what this person's gonna update. So what we'll be hiring this person to do will be their expertise of going in and formatting it into. It'll be a one-time update. We're hoping to do this for less than $3,000. One-time update of all the information to get us set for the summer season. I don't know what the quotes will be, so I'm just saying that's what our hope is to be able to do this. Do you feel this is important? And so if Raven comes back on the 16th with kind of a summarized one page that says, here's all the sections on the website we're gonna update, And then I come back with 3 quotes of people locally who have the ability to update it, then you'll approve that and we'll request that they do that by Friday the 25th. And so we'll ask them when we ask for a quote that they can complete it by that time. Is everybody good with that? Okay. Okay.
Tara, will that
Yes.
include increasing the, I'm not a techie, so I don't know the hits or the
Yeah, because
search
we are not,
Yes.
the
capability?
Discover isn't even close to the top.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, another option, I'll just throw it out on the table, here's another option. And Si mentioned it in response to what Craig was saying, and this is the time to discuss this right now. Do you want to explain the contract that we had with, the ladies in Boulder?
Studio system.
So
No,
stu-
this is before
Oh,
that.
before them, okay, that's right, yeah.
And what Jonathan canceled and what Si was saying in response to Craig.
So we had a contract.
Ziv.
Ziv, and they were updating our site on a monthly basis, actually. And then Jonathan wanted to get rid of him, and then he wanted to hire Raven, and then he said that Raven and him would be able to do the site and maintain it, and we would drop that cost, but it was last May. And I said no, because I wasn't convinced that Raven or him had enough background that they could get that accomplished. So we kept them till September, October, in which case then he canceled the contract and said they would take over and start maintaining it and start doing the new site. But their knowledge still wasn't as much as Ziv was. So
Ziv
finally in
Did also
December,
Trinidad Loves Company's Facebook page,
yeah,
as well as
yeah, and they did try to,
website.
yeah. And so then as of December, they were all canceled completely, and Raven has not been able to go in the background and get it. I addressed it with Greg, the city manager, about a month ago, because now we're going into season, and I felt like I had all these promises made. And Greg went and looked in the background of it and said the language is too old now or whatever, even though Ziv was maintaining it for us. So that's where we sit now, with us being really frustrated that we don't have a good website up.
So the other option, other than hiring a local person to update everything that Raven writes down, the other option is that we actually go do a bid, and I think we can keep it at, wasn't Ziv 10,000 a year?
Something similar to that.
I think we can keep it in that range where we don't have to do a formal RFP, where we do a bid, 3 bids to monthly maintain and update the website and the Facebook page from now through the end of the year. If we decide to go that route, I would suggest that we pull that money from kiosk wayfinding and signage. There's $32,600 that we utilize up to $10,000 of that funding to pay for this service. So those are 2 options, and we're not making an official vote today. What you'll do is give staff direction, and then we'll come back with one option, which is a service that updates and gets all, and they actually source all the information themselves by talking with Raven, or they call SCRT, they call all the local services. Or the other one is that Raven puts down everything that needs to be updated, and we hire someone locally that has a lot of background with Wix, and they update it. And that would be more like we would hope 3,000 to 5,000, so a one time, versus 10,000 for the year to be maintained every month. So this is where you guys kind of.
How was Viv? Viv was,
Ziv
Was
did a
doing
great
okay,
job.
wasn't it?
One of the best things about Ziv was that their history. So they've been really at the high end of marketing and advertising and technology for 20 years, 15, 20 years. So they knew the language to it too, because it is an older language on our site. It's probably a 10-year-old, about 10-year-old language, and they understood that language, so they could go in there and make improvements all the time. Where when you get a younger set, and they're wonderful, but that was a language that was developed before they started learning her current language. So Jonathan had put up the one page then, and he had great colors and everything on it, and we had high hopes for it, but then, of course, it wasn't added to on the backside, and then Ziv was canceled, and then now we don't have anything, and it's been a huge, yeah.
Where's that money that was paid to them, and how long have they
It would have
gone?
been, they would have been 2017, 16.
Uh-huh.
They would have been 16 and 17. Actually, none in 17.
None in
Ended
17, it
Ended
is.
in December of 16.
Yeah.
Right.
So right now we have nothing for
You
the,
pull up, Tom, and it's got the logo and it's got the basic outline, but it's not updated. It was built
when
and then
was
it
the
was
last time
kind
it was
of,
updated?
Oh,
Jonathan, when
Yeah.
Jonathan
Yeah.
was here.
And then nobody was taught that language or know how to do that, and so then. we
You
have-
can see, it's an attractive site.
so
Yeah,
basically,
the
we're
So
looking
can
at,
we
What we
build
need,
on
like
that,
under dine
or
and drink, we
can we
can
start
build
over?
under it. Well, I wouldn't suggest starting over, because that's much more than the 10,000, but like the dine and drink, where you go in there, choose your dining location. What we need is for someone to go in and make sure all the restaurants are still relevant.
so what we're saying is that
Just
$3,000 to $5,000 to maintain it at one time.
No, just to update it
To
one
update
time, no
update it one
maintenance.
time, update, no maintenance, or go into Viv and give them under $10,000 a year to do all of this.
To do a monthly,
Monthly thing,
On the
And that's a
Discover
12-month
site.
contract?
and that will just be, and we haven't talked to them, and it wouldn't be
Right.
Zib, we would get quotes
you would get quotes.
for somebody to go in now and maintain it between now and December 31, and we would pay up to $10,000. So let's say a new restaurant opened in August.
Right.
They would add that new restaurant. Let's say a festival happened in September, they would add
And it was
upcoming
seam-
information.
It was seamless, they were really great, or I'm sure any internet company, Ziv was great, but just somebody that's what they're dedicated to and knowing.
Right.
But
They're
they were
just dedicated to
you know,
that.
To the internet.
So the difference in the one-time update and the live updates that would happen every 2 weeks or so, it's different kinds of content. If you're doing a one-time update, you're looking at the landscape of Trinidad and saying, okay, we're gonna make sure all the restaurants and shops and everything are good for the season. And then next year, we'll come back and we'll update all the shops and restaurants for the season. So if a Ristra's closes August 31st, it might still be on there because it's a one-time update. And that's less expensive. The regular update means that within 2 weeks of anything happening, we've got a service that's providing that information regularly. And there's not anything bad or good necessarily with either approach, they're just very different approaches.
Right, and one of the things I like about it is there's somebody dedicated that's actually doing it, which, is obviously the win-win. And I think that's, even with Jonathan being gone and Raven being part-time with tourism, we don't have one direct person that we.
So in other words, that's gonna hinder the whole thing because of someone not continually working on that.
Correct.
And what this will also do, your decision today will also help give me direction as I'm writing and rewriting Raven's job description. So if you decide to do the one-time update, then part of it becomes more important that we get Raven trained to be able to do that regularly. So we would prioritize over the summer some WIX training for Raven so that she would be able to go in, and then we would set aside an amount of time per week for her to collect that information. So it's gonna depend on what your priorities are going forward, if you want that service inside or outside, or if you want to do it outside the city now, but you give staff direction that on the long term, you'd like for that maintenance to come inside the city. So you can see that every decision we make now, we're gonna be planning for the next steps into the future.
And that's kind of what we had said when Raven was hired then. Well, we want Ziv to keep going until Raven is trained. But then, that's what we intended, right?
So that's the plan
Yeah,
anyways.
and the site itself and the colors and the boxes and the stuff that Jonathan did was a really wonderful and update, a really crisp and fun. It's just that no one has the knowledge to update it.
So to answer your question, Tom, about whether that's the plan and where we're going, we're kind of rebooting now. You're starting at a really good time, you and Karen both. Because you pay right now for 50% of Raven's salary and what her job description is, and economic development pays for 50%. What that looks like in 6 months might be the same and it might be different. you need administrative support. If Raven is gonna be tasked to do more and more and more in tourism, then you will be accepting more and more and more of her salary. If you wanna do something like this as an outside service for right now, and you want Raven trained, then we can go that route. But Raven can, her job description can also move to different things for tourism and leave room for different things other than website maintenance. So as Raven sits here and we're discussing her
Right.
future,
And just
part of this is, I think we need a plan for this summer. And then we can talk about, as we get into budget for next year, we'll look at what Raven's job responsibilities look like toward the end of the year, and then we'll talk about what percentage, as you can see, of the wages and salaries that go. So
Well, just me listening to Craig for the few minutes, I've never met the gentleman, but, the thing with me is he does have a good point, you know, that tourism is gonna be the industry for Trinidad.
right.
You know, so that is where I feel, you know, what industry is coming
Okay.
here, you know, other than, you know,
absolutely, Tom.
so this is where we have to drive
Mm-hmm.
to that, if this is gonna be the main focus of what we're striving for.
Given that, then I would say my recommendation to staff would be that we try and get somebody, a service that would regularly update and maintain this for the rest of this year. And on the second side, we get Raven some training on how to maintain the website. So that will give you an option next year of which way to go.
And just so,
Sure.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
It just clarify that, so that means the tourism board pays approximately $1,500 a month for Raven.
Mhm.
Just so that, you know, there's always a difference of a monetary value in your head, so we pay about $1,500 a month for Raven.
I think she's overpaid.
Never happened.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
Well, this is feedback when you were talking about tech and website.
Uh-huh.
A lot of, like the ladies from the Downtown Merchants Association, a couple of people have brought up in meetings that I've attended that available Wi-Fi downtown would be a great help. Is that something that the tourism board could fund? And does anybody know how much something like that costs?
So I think IT's already working on that
Oh, are they?
outside of tourism.
Okay.
We've certainly given our
I
opinion
didn't
to
know.
that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Absolutely.
Been very vocal about that.
Okay, good deal. I just wanted
Yeah,
to see
no.
if it was addressed, because I think that's
I can get an
super-
update.
You guys,
super important.
on a note of defending everybody, when you're texting somebody and you type in Trinidad, you know, on the bottom part what comes up?
Trinidad, Tobago.
Flag. Just remember that.
It comes up what?
When you're typing, like
Oh.
I'm saying, I'm in Trinidad, guys, right now, and blah, blah,
Oh, it
blah.
comes up-
Trinidad Tobago flag. You know, when the autocorrect comes up,
Right.
that Trinidad Tobago sign comes up. Just want you to know, they're very strong.
Yeah,
They're a
they are.
country.
They are, an entire country.
Just want you to know.
So what is the direction, guys, to close the discussion? What would you guys like us to do?
I would like to go where you went.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get quotes and bring those back of somebody like a Ziv that can do, we'll get 3 minimum and 4 or 5, if, depending on what response we get, for $1,250 a month, starting now through the end of this year, to update the website on a bi-monthly
Yes.
basis.
Right.
And then we'll look at some separate training for Raven, and we'll do that out of economic development expense, okay?
Okay, all right,
Good enough?
good enough.
Okay, so we'll have that for the 16th meeting, for the meeting on 5/16. Okay,
The Charlie signage and video.
okay, so the tourism board had suggested that you wanted the side of the trolley signed.
Mhm.
We want the Trinidad name back on the trolley.
So it was kind of more in-depth when we started making calls. So I came back to get some clarification. Do you want us to get designs from companies that would be, this is what the side of the trolley would look like, and bring those back for you to decide? Because the gambit of different things that people propose are extensive. So instead of just, when we left here last time, you said, staff, go back and get some quotes for what it would be to sign the trolley. Well, it depends on what design you choose. So what we'd like to do is bring back 2 to 4 designs, once again, less than 10,000. So we don't have to do an RFP. And then you're gonna need to look at those and decide how you want that to look.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay, I mean, I guess there's new wave areas of doing it, but, you know, we really worked on the last time we updated the Charlie's, signage on it, and, historic, Trinidad's similar to the old one, but I guess there's new ways of doing it.
Now, a faster way to do this would be to go back to Studio 6, who had the contract for the branding, and we're just finishing the style guide, and have as part of that contract, Studio 6 design what the trolley would look like, and then we take that out and we get quotes for fabrication. So that might be easier, but that would mean extending that contract, and we would have to have a conversation with Tracy and find out how much that would be
Yeah.
to extend that branding contract, which is coming to a close right now. This would be the last add-in.
It's okay, I guess I'm just really frustrated that we don't have Trinidad on there, and we've owned the trolley now for a year. I'm so frustrated with that.
But you can imagine like calling up NV and Designs Local and saying, we want to put Trinidad on the side, and Jamie says, okay, Tara, what do you want?
Mhm.
And I say, well, I don't know, we have all these new logos and
Right.
everything, do we want the circle logo, do we want the tourism logo, what colors do you want? I mean, he needs direction.
Right.
I need to be able to give him a design.
Right.
So it's gonna be either bidding out the design and then bringing that back to you, or extending Studio 6, who already has the,
Design.
Yeah.
and doing the design of the side of the trolley. Any feedback?
Studio 6, the company, I'm sorry, Studio 6, the company that did this logo?
Yeah. And the
And
circle.
and our book, our tourism book,
All three.
And the
Yeah.
guide,
and the guide,
and the city seal.
yeah.
I don't wanna mess up the logo or the sign or anything, but do we have something that we go on, like, my thought was like visit Trinidad on that thing, because when you're at the Welcome Center and that bus is there, and that's, that's a welcoming sign.
Good point.
Visit Trinidad, I don't know, I think we have to come up with something other than, all the places to go, all the things to do, we have to welcome them in some sense.
Right.
We welcome them, welcome their money, and
So.
No,
He's
right.
throwing that money in there, guys.
So what that might be then is, whether we choose to get 3 quotes on designing it, or whether we choose to go back to Studio 6, Raven needs to go and take a picture of each side of the trolley and get the dimensions, so we can give it to either these companies that are designing it, or to Studio 6, who would design it. It sounds like on the 16th, what you'd like to, if we can get on this today, maybe by the 16th, we can put in front of you several things to choose.
right.
Once we've chosen it, fabrication is the easiest part.
So, just to utilize our time better, what would you recommend, Tara? Going the route of having them give us ideas, or going to Studio 6 and
I think Studio 6 is probably easier because they already own they don't own it, we own it, but they already have all the JPEGs for all the logos, and I just don't know, Si.
so.
It might be faster if we go to Studio 6.
I think.
And I think that's the thing to look at, is to,
It'd be more
we
expensive,
really
but it'll
need
be
to move
faster.
forward,
Well, moving forward, I always do like though that, if you get people that really know their job and they know their job well, to let them do it. And so since Studio 6 is involved in already that, I would like to suggest that Studio 6 be contacted against that, with even the idea that Tom put forward with.
Visit Trinidad.
Visit Trinidad. to
Maybe the
have it-
website,
Yeah.
maybe on the
I
back, the
think we gotta go
website.
with, we
Yeah.
need to go with something.
Mhm.
Okay,
And then down the road, we could go visit downtown, visit
You're,
You know,
you're
it's-
absolutely right.
All those things could be
Okay.
added to,
Put the website
Mhm.
or something.
And
Are you good with that?
And you're right about
Camille?
tourism for Trinidad. If you take all the jobs in hotels and restaurants
Mhm.
versus any other
There's the big
occupation
industry.
here, that's the biggest industry.
Okay, so let me find out, I'll just grab Les as he's walking out and ask if we can just extend that contract, that way we don't have to bid this out or anything, we can just get it done. Get a price from him and get that done. Okay, so once again, we're gonna aim for the 16th. I just don't know what their schedule is and if we can deliver the designs by then. But let's say worst case scenario, if we don't have them to vote on the 16th, we might be able to distribute them via email between that and June 5th, which would be when we authorize it, okay? I understand all of this is late, but this is kind of my first
Well,
official
I mean-
meeting, so we're
I mean,
gonna
it's
get
like-
going.
to get on the thing of fixing things, like Craig said.
Just
he
get
was-
on it.
He was on a job that he went in and fixed things. Well, we need to start fixing things.
Yeah, and let's just I wanna
And
clarify
when we
that.
get to reports from members,
Yeah.
we'll talk through all the correct specific things, okay?
And Tara, this is her first official meeting. We've been sort of in limbo, not having anybody to direct for the last so many months. We can say certain things to Raven, but she's only part-time with us, and so we haven't been able to accomplish as much more than we wanted. And I think we've all been really frustrated with that.
Okay, next item.
Downtown readiness.
Okay, Tom put this on, let's talk about getting ready. This was our discussion we had at Craft one day, the downtown, getting it prepared for summer.
Yeah, and, you know, I don't know what not only downtown area, but everybody, you are a good business member of this community and a good community member when you keep your outside of your door clean. So how do we reflect that into everybody, you know?
Okay, so flowers are gonna be one way, and I'll get an update on when
And it
that's gonna
doesn't
get
look clean.
higher.
I drove through, you know, I mean, if you actually get out and drive and park and walk around,
Can you come up with a list of what
Here's
needs to be
here's
done?
here's a good idea is, how many city council members are there?
7.
7. I mean, if us and them and even everybody that's associated with fixing downtown,
The
an
Main Street
idea,
group.
ideas, what can you go down Main Street and fix today? That's not gonna take anything. That's not gonna take something big. Is it just cleaning up? When I had the dry cleaners for 30 years, I would spend an entire Sunday washing my sidewalk and my driveway and my windows. That's what I did on Sunday.
Mhm.
Self-pride. Take self-pride in your business.
I think that's the biggest thing as far as for the merchants is the South Pride. I mean, someone asked us, who was with us, how much does it cost to wash the windows downtown?
20
We looked and we
bucks.
said $20. And wash your windows. I don't have the dog poop situation that Craig has. I don't have that. I do sweep the front of my thing because I have a lot of leaves. The wind this winter and this past winter has been
It really has, and that is true.
amazing for the downtown merchants. There's more stuff blowing in than, it's, even the branches are breaking off the trees. The wind's so brutal. So, you know, I am gonna take that in consideration. Yes, we do sweep. Yes, I do wash my windows with the hose. Yes, I do wash my sidewalks. Kenny's real good at spraying weeds for me, and then I'm good for him to water his plants. But I think a little bit more has to step up to the plate with some of the merchants too.
Well, you know, they're trees, how, you know, we feel like we're out of control
I
there.
talked to Tom, I talked to
They're
Craig about
working
tree
on it.
grates, yeah.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
And,
That's
and,
5 months.
So out of this conversation, Karen had asked about tree grates, so I understand they're doing that this
Yeah,
week.
they're doing
it's trees, and then, you know, another curb appeal thing is, it's the painting on the curbs and stuff, it's
Have
summertime.
we to address
Yeah.
that? Because when the merchants went to city council, that was one of the things we addressed it.
Not only the trees, it's the trees, where's the lights in the trees? If the
Right.
trees, if the lights are still on the trees, and that we have all the same colored lights, so it doesn't look like you're a hobo town, because you got different colored colors of lights in the trees.
Well, right now, we have cords hanging down from the trees that we can't even plug into the trees, so let's get rid of the,
And I guess
lights
it's more
in the trees.
frustrating for me as a manager of a hotel that has different departments itself, is for me just to get a group of guys, I want you to go down all those trees, I want all of them done. You know, that's really just what I want to say, it's really frustrating, and because it's not the same way in government as it is in private business. When you want something done, you can just do it, it's not the same thing. But-
Amen, sister.
You know, and I just so desperately want to clean the downtown area up, and Sunday I did, I drove and parked and I walked around when things weren't open yet, and I really became greatly saddened, because, you know, windows don't look washed, the curbs look bad, the trees don't look it. Some of the trees need to be trimmed, they're way bigger than the other trees, and they don't look, it's just, it's really frustrating, because I just want to clean up our house, and that's what we need to do, and I'm thinking, you know, if I have guests that are coming in town, that are walking around, they see what I see. A few of the buildings that are abandoned, they don't get the same care that you gave, or that Craig does to his front. So, you know, there's dirt blown into there, and yeah, because really, I just feel like cleanliness is the biggest part to downtown.
And it's always suffered that.
It
I-
has,
it-
but
it
don't you
really
remember
has.
that guy that used to be assigned to commercial in Main
Oh,
Street
yeah.
years
Well, that-
ago?
Yeah, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah, man, he cleaned up commercial in Main, we didn't even have as many stores as we have now.
we did, the merchants did ask for, and they always gonna do it, cop walk the cop, and they, except for last week, maybe the week before, because I know they have a lot on their plate, they were really doing, those cops were downtown walking, which was really nice. And I know they told us they were gonna start doing these, they're doing the poles now. Probably right after that, they're gonna be painting the yellow markings, they said. And so.
They're starting that already.
They're starting that, so, and I've been
Well,
kinda out of.
there's two
so-
positive things, you know, and then the planners are coming in. Another thing I would like to see is like a formal order or formal letter that of people who have vacant buildings. If they could work with us to, I know maybe I'm going back 10 years to where in some of the vacant buildings, they would put art from the art
I agree.
galleries. And if just this building on the corner would do that, how it would dress up that building. Where,
I have to see the job.
Wash
right,
the
if you,
windows,
if
then
you
just
just,
wash
if you
the
would
windows.
just, you know, help us participate in keeping Trinidad clean so people can visit us.
So why
I
don't we
mean,
work
it's
with,
just.
a formal letter sounds like something the tourism board could do.
Mhm.
So why don't we work with the planning department who has the vacant building registry? And let's hone in not on the vacant buildings across town, but the downtown.
Mhm.
And let
Start
us
there.
come back and let you know what that letter would look like, but maybe we start there with, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Maybe we start there with a letter from the tourism board asking the owners of these vacant buildings to address washing the windows for the season and putting some sort of decorative display in the window.
Even get the art council, I don't know if there's an art council
There is
anymore.
arts and-
If they
arts and
could get
culture
it,
advisory.
if, you know,
I meet with
to where we
Michelle
could-
Goodall.
I can remember how
on
nice this
Thursday.
building looked when they did do that. They put a sheet as a backdrop, and then they put a piece of art, and then,
You know-
like at Walmart, you can buy those lights that are solar. They'll charge up in the day,
Mhm.
and they light up at night, so the window's lit up at night.
You know,
I
what
mean-
would really be really good if we could do it, is like the building, Penny's building. If we could find an old Altman picture of
Yeah.
that building in the day and said,
Mhm.
this was what this building looked like
And enlarge.
in 1800, put an enlargement in it, you know. But you know what else I was thinking, I'm sorry.
No,
But, you know, the Main Street group had a great promotion in Christmas with decorating for Christmas.
Mhm.
Do you feel that that was
It
successful?
was very successful on the
I think it was
Instagram
very.
too. It's
Why can't we do that for summer?
Summer.
Instead of
It's gotta be
saying Christmas,
budgeted, it's just gotta be budgeted. It's-
instead of saying Merry Christmas, put Welcome to Trinidad.
Yeah, summertime in Trinidad or something.
Summertime in Trinidad and
I
let them.
like that a lot. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
We need to do something in addition.
Input, Tara, how can we accomplish it? We're in May, guys, and really, I am just overwhelmed with not having things done downtown. I'm overwhelmed with all the stuff. It's just, everybody's trying so hard, but we're not getting stuff done.
So there's three things here. So one would be a formal letter from tourism board to downtown building owners. The second would be, I meet with Michelle Goodall at 1:00 on Thursday. She's the chair of the Art and Culture Advisory Commission, to see if tourism board sent these letters and got a response from building owners to work with them. Like if we asked in the letter, would you work with us? Then maybe Art and Culture Advisory Commission would take the working with to figure out what to put in them. And then the third thing would be Main Street meets this afternoon at 2, and one of the things in their work plan is to shop local, which was the windows during Christmas. But they don't have budget to do that again in the summer. So I could ask Mr. Sund if he would set aside $5,000 of marijuana money and ask Main Street if they'd be willing to do something again.
Even like the art in the buildings, you could say,
Mhm.
buy me at this art gallery,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they're,
You guys, realize you're only talking about maybe 1 or 2 buildings that are completely empty that we could use window
but if,
front.
but if those.
Everybody else looks pretty good.
Everybody else downtown is full. There's a lot of
if
people
we could
come to
just
me and
dress
say,
up
well, there's
those-
so many empty buildings.
Well,
And
But
there
if we
isn't
could-
really empty
But if we
buildings.
could just dress them up.
yeah,
Well, we
dress
can,
them
and
up.
that's,
You know.
the big building right here is the main one on the corner, because you go down, there is no other empty buildings. I
Even-
say,
Well,
Space to
Blackjack's
Create,
is-
Blackjack's, hopefully they will sell, but Space to Create is working across the street. Blackjack's is a restaurant, I realize that. And then we have our beautiful Opera House, so just sitting there boarded up. So 2 big buildings that we should concentrate, I'm sorry, is this one on the
Right.
corner and Opera House.
That would be an
because
accomplishment.
That is huge, because down on Main Street, the other side of Main Street, all those buildings are
Right,
full.
they are.
They do need a big cleaning job, they do need, the
So
windows.
why don't we,
washed.
instead of doing formal letters to vacant building owners, why don't we do a formal letter to every business owner in the downtown, just asking them?
I think a nice letter
A
asking them
nice
to
letter,
let.
thanking them and
Thanking
asking
them, and
them.
for cleaning up your place. I'm not mentioning names, but I know where Craig is, there's a place that God, if they would just sweep their sidewalks out a little bit, it would be helpful. And they're not a downtown retail, let me put it that way. Don't wanna mention names, but if they would just go out and sweep their sidewalk or shake out their little floor mat, it would look so
And
much
for people
better.
not to take it offensively, because
Don't take it
I'm not
offensively,
doing
I-
this to pick on anybody with
No.
anything, I just
Well,
want.
it's self-right.
And I think a letter to everybody downtown, the little businesses, we could either, I will hand deliver them, we put in an envelope, I'll hand deliver them, I'll make out the list, but just to thank them for taking care of your building, washing the windows, let's get this place spruced up, so we could really, we have a very dry condition this year. We might see a lot of smoke this year,
That's
but
true.
let's let our buildings come alive, because we are worried about that.
And from a marketing perspective, for 20 years, I
Mm-hmm.
marketed Trinidad, then you take exit 13B, Main Street, I don't do that anymore. Now, I have them get off on the Commercial Street exit, because the Commercial Street exit has new curb and gutter, the buildings are cleaner,
And
it's a
that's-
better presentation, they
huge.
drive up, they see it. They come this way, it's dirty,
And they're working on their place, because they have been told. We
Yeah,
have,
their
told- we
places.
told
Even-
our little
even-
bed and breakfast people, they're working on their whole yard.
because it does
Good.
somewhat look like a,
Go ahead.
Because I'm a building owner, if I could
Mhm.
chime in here, I've got to run because I'm doing 2 meetings at once.
uh-huh.
But I just want to add in as a building owner, I agree with everything that's been said, I just want to give you a piece of information before you shift gears and I run to go change a tape over at the county. The property on my north side, which has been a parking lot and a weed lot, I don't know if you've seen that there's been work going on there. What I decided, because I only use it as a parking lot a few times a year, and I'll still be able to use it as a parking lot, for those of you, or us, whatever, that are Catholic, if you know what a labyrinth is, do you know what grounding is? Grounding, walking on the dirt with your feet because of the
Right.
energy. What I'm putting in there is a labyrinth, and it's gonna have 7 layers. And then the oval, which I had nice several years ago when I got a sprinkler system out there, is gonna be the heart. There's a part where we're gonna add dirt, which is the brain. But the 7 layers of Catholicism is our baptism, Eucharist, confirmation,
Oh,
I should know
that's
this off my head.
beautiful.
Reconciliation, anointing the 6 marriage and holy orders, and you'll be able to walk that. In spiritual, Eastern whatever, there's the 7 chakras.
Right.
And so Sunny Leone has red dirt. We're gonna put in paths that are red dirt that people can come and just, it's a place of meditation and a spiritual, regeneration or whatever, that is gonna be a part of downtown. And so we're in the process of working on it now. So it's gonna be a big plus, because I agree with everything you're saying. But I'm multitasking, so now I gotta run to the county.
All right,
Just leave
so-
my equipment alone, guys, or,
Okay.
because I will come back and I will turn it
We'll leave
off.
it
Okay, we will.
Thank you for giving me a
Okay,
minute.
want us
That's
to turn it off or
inappropriate, but-
anything? No.
Huh?
You want us to turn it off or anything?
No, I'll come back, because I have to
Okay.
save it, I don't want it
So
to
for
not save.
downtown-
So the takeaway is we'll have a letter for you guys to
Okay.
look at on the 16th. Okay.
And then, spread the news, it's your front door. People don't go through a front door that is dirty and messy and looks questionable. The same thing about, and I use this as an example numerous times, there's a mall here, and it's got weeds growing up, and
Okay.
it's dirty, and the windows are dirty, and the parking lot looks bad, and there's a brand new mall here. Where are you
Right,
gonna go?
and Kenny went out with weed spray one day, and we sprayed that around the corner, and the next day, 3 days later, our weeds were gone. That easy.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Okay, business items, unfinished business,
Nothing right now?
and new business,
Nothing we'll have for the next meeting with
Okay.
quotes?
reports by members, staff reports, Craft Studio 101.
Okay, reports by members, let's go back to that. So, really what Craig did would happen under members. Really what Tom did would happen under petitions. So we're gonna get this ironed out when we get there.
Okay, thanks, Tara.
So do the members have any reports? Is this where you say what you've been doing? And you've all attended craft, so we want that on the record.
Well,
I thoroughly enjoyed it, even learning about, no offense, the Chinese. I mean, we have a big influence, we see it a lot, and it was very interesting. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it tomorrow because I am leaving for Denver, but, which is unfortunate because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Right, and I look at it differently like you did because I run a hotel, so we do current tour buses. So they did speak about the market of China and Germany, and right now, we do get quite a few, especially in the fall. We get the German buses, they fly into Albuquerque or Denver, and then they drive all the way, do the Garden of the Gods, then they stop in Trinidad for the night, and then they go on to Albuquerque, they do Santa Fe. So I do see that market now, so I was aware of what they were saying. So they market Colorado as a state to those areas, and I just asked how many dollars or stuff that goes out to that way. So that is a market, especially, because they like the Wild West, the Germans and Asians, and it's beautiful.
I thought it was very, it was very
What
interesting.
I got out of it was techniques and the vision
Mhm.
and
Hands-on kind of
places,
stuff.
places to go other than just staying with the Chinese. I mean, there was just a lot of tools in
Yeah.
there for us to take and go with them.
And I really appreciate the thought that we are part of the state of Colorado. And sometimes, obviously, a lot of those dollars from CTO office go to market areas that are already built up. But as the southern border for the state of Colorado on the main I-25 corridor, I like to see that the CTO office stands up and starts spending money on southern Colorado and its beauty. And they're accepting our grant and us doing this in the two lower counties. I appreciate, and I
And
want to be part
regardless,
of them.
sometimes even with people with ski areas or with a lot of activity, they're with us in this small town atmosphere.
Oh, all the time.
All the time. It was like,
March.
you're thinking, you're really having that problem like we're having problems? And you're saying, no kidding. It's amazing how close we are, similar we are, how the government is run, how the one girl is doing everything. That one girl, we looked at you and looked at there and said, oh, join the club. How how one person gets in trouble by their city government because she either made a big mistake wrong or something, and it was like a unity of, like, we're not stranded, we are here, we're in this is small town environment, even though we think a couple of those other towns are huge because they're in the mountains and they got to scare you, but they're still a small little town.
And
It was
whatever
nice
we
to
can
see.
do for our community to make them understand that tourism's on the forefront, there's craft going on, there's us as a board, there's people speaking about it because people sometimes just don't get how important tourism is to this town. Take out all these jobs and we have a real influence. in Trinidad.
that Judy, tell me her last name?
Walden.
Walden, me and her clicked real well. I
Yeah,
would
she's
love to have
great.
dinner with that lady
She's
one
great.
day.
She's great.
But the thing of it is, you don't have to put that down. The thing of it is when we start talking about, You know, I love the Wild West, don't get me wrong, you guys, I love the Wyatt Earp and everything, but she herself said they just passed through here. It was not a destination for them either. But that was 200 years ago. The thing of it is, we have some people that are 80 and 90 that are currently on. When I told her there was a train that went from Trinidad up to Taurus, up to the thing, she knew about it. That town was bigger than Trinidad at one time. And there's a lot of history in Trinidad that maybe we're not tapping into about as far as talking to some of the old timers and getting that. And maybe that's what everybody says, well, you should know your Wyatt Earp and do this so you can talk about it in the stores. I want to talk about the mining. I want to talk about how my grandfather and 7 brothers came here because of the mining. That's what the current, people that come into my shop, that's currently what they want to hear about. They want to hear the current old times, not the old times. They want to hear about the current old times. Am I wrong?
When the building was going up next door to the
Can't help you there.
the park there on Main Street, the Miners Park. I delivered for UPS, so I used to stop in there and talk to Mike Romero, and I told him, you know, Mike, there's a building going up. So I used to put these bugs in the trees, and I told him, you know what would be neat, Mike? If you would make a mine in the basement of that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny now because these were all his ideas, but I was happy to put the bug in
Yeah,
his
they've
ear.
done a fabulous job.
Because I took my grandkids down there, and my grandkids still talk about it. They got to put the hat on, they got to put the light on, and,
But they're one of the ones that they're great, the weeds are coming out that is just taken
but
away
see,
from them.
maybe this letter will help them.
Maybe the letter will help them.
I mean, they've already started, they're starting to renovate the back end of the building.
Right, oh, they're
So-
doing a lot of work
So they
back
have
there.
come a long way.
They have,
You
they
know,
have.
and, but I think if we put the bug in people,
Right.
I was so glad she was there, Orlando was there the day Judy was talking too, because I think that was,
I just so appreciated her
she
being
happened to be there. Craig came in at one time when they were talking about the Chinese, he came out that afternoon,
Right.
he totally missed her conversation. So it depends on what time you went into those meetings and what you got out of it. I'm trying to make sure I stayed until at least 1 o'clock, and then I booked in a couple days, I stayed all day, but it was hard for me. But anyway,
I just have 2 things
Go ahead.
on my report. I'm not a member, but I guess,
You are.
okay, all right, not a voting member, but 2 things I wanted to address. You have an advocate in me for downtown, because that's on my first one-on-one with Mr. Sund, that's what was my biggest concern. And I think once the city gets their act together and cleans up downtown, then we can go to merchants and say, hey, the city understands now. And so now it's your turn to do what you need to do as far as maintaining your property. I have been advocating for downtown since the first day I got on the council, and I will continue to do so.
great, yeah.
Because, and I understand Craig's frustration to a point, because I feel that frustration coming from private business to government. It's a huge, huge transition. And if you are not a patient person, government is not for you. But I think we're going in the right direction, you know. I'm as guilty as the next person trying to hang our hat on an industry that employs 300 people at one time rather than 300 people in 30 businesses. But I think we're coming around. As a community, we're understanding that that is the only industry that we have that we can control ourselves. We can't control Pioneer, we can't control coal mines, we can't do any of that, but we can control our own destiny.
And we have traffic, we're not like we're off the beaten path, they have to come find us, we're right here on the highway.
It
Here's-
takes time, and I'm sorry.
Here's one of the things I see that we can build on industry because we have tourism tax dollars now. And that's, gives us the forefront to, just like Pagosa Springs, what they've done. I mean, if you just take one of those projects and you just see how it's enhanced that little town. You know, I think you as a business owner downtown would be happy to say you're frustrated with so many people coming into town now.
I would be happy.
And we're on an interstate that gets maybe 100 times more traffic than they do in
Absolutely.
Glenwood Street or in that area.
So out of these reports, I'm going to keep downtown readiness on the agenda as a regular item for us to continue discussing. Was there anything else out of these reports that you wanted to make sure was next time on the agenda?
Yeah, so I'm not really quite sure 100% if this is at the right time, but I did get an email from Linda Barron yesterday with a
Okay.
request for any sort of funding to help with the Santa Fe Trail Festival.
Okay, so,
So that's not though, so I know I couldn't just.
so, let me just ask how to handle this one. So based on budget numbers, you don't have a lot of money for outside agencies. And at some point, we'll talk about it. I'll put it on the agenda. Why don't I just put it on the agenda this way? We need to talk about how we're gonna handle outside agencies like SCRT, Santa Fe Trail. You guys gave some money in the last meeting to Trout Unlimited and to Trinidadeo, but we haven't talked about everyone else yet. So we
Right.
need to decide whether we're gonna set aside an amount of money and do a grant round, or whether you want to put something in the paper and have people bring forward requests. So why don't we discuss that on the 16th?
Okay.
And that'll give then Raven and I a chance to look at the money and what's actually committed and allocated already to some of the marketing that was done last year. And we can give you a number that we would feel comfortable saying you could allocate for that. Okay, so next week, in 2 weeks, we'll add, shall we call it nonprofit funding?
Nonprofit, but, and in the background, there's been a lot of wheeling and dealing with money, and we didn't end up having to pay for the trolley thing. It went from a different bucket of money, but, after our initial, but just, so before Jonathan left, he signed 6 contracts for $68,000 for, advertising and marketing funds, which put a damper on us this year that we weren't aware of.
And that is just for this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so just
that's
this year. So we'll live through it and we'll be
We'll live
better.
through
And
it.
Jonathan did so much right too, without a doubt. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I wanted you to have correct information because sometimes people ask you that question around town with tourism, what that was. Just
Okay, is members done? Are we ready for staff?
staff, yes.
Okay, before we go into the actual agenda items, I wanted to respond to some things that came up in communication and in member reports. I feel so unfortunate that Craig was that frustrated, and I want you all to know I will sit down sometime this week. I may wait a day or so and go by and visit with him. It's never good when someone from the community gets so frustrated that they don't want to serve anymore on a board, and that's unfortunate. I agreed with some things he said. I disagreed with some things he said. I want to address those in my report. Meetings, he's correct. We haven't had consistent meetings. You're going to see on agenda item 9 that we're going to have 3 meetings out scheduled and on
In
the
reference to
agenda.
that though, am I wrong, but has there only been like 3 times this year or something that something was rescheduled because of city things, not because we just decided we didn't do that? It's not like it's been every month or anything.
I have had some
No.
significant family things going on, and I just haven't been in the
You know,
office a great deal,
it-
so
that,
I
that
can't
kind of
speak,
month-
I
I think that
can't
front
speak
month of
with that.
February,
There was one
end
month
of
that
February,
it was
March,
like,
it was kind of chaotic, but
but it wasn't due
but
to
it-
us not wanting to meet, it was due to something that was bigger than life at City
that,
Hall.
that
It
is,
wasn't
that
because
is,
of us.
it was, that is right, it wasn't because, okay, let's just not have it, let's
Yeah.
just wait until next week.
Yeah.
That wasn't
It
the
was
case.
never that
I
way.
think there's another agenda that he's more frustrated than anything, I'm not gonna go there on there,
Yeah,
but,
that's okay.
I would love to understand that from you later then.
Yeah.
yeah. I
It might
won't
help
go
me.
into-
And then number 2, craft. So craft, I understand it's kind of difficult because, it's difficult for me and it's my job to be there. It's difficult for Raven and it's her job to be there. For those
Difficult
of
for
you,
me.
those of you who've done it amazing, Tom, Camilla,
I'm
and
sorry I
Cy,
couldn't stay as much, and I'm sorry I'm gonna miss.
One of the things that the state said to me is they feel like Trinidad has an amazing relationship with the creative industries, And they feel like Trinidad has an amazing relationship with the Office of Economic Development, but the tourism office was missing that. And this was a really exciting application to get from them, and they saw this as their opportunity to get more involved with Trinidad. So we're gonna take advantage of that on a lot of levels. So, starting at our next meeting, I guess, you know, if Kraft frustrated Craig, I guess in some ways it's fortunate, because we're gonna meet in the council chambers next time, and we're actually gonna go through a segment every month, and we're gonna explain, it'll only be 15 or 20 minutes, we're not gonna put you through 8 hours. It'll be about 15 or 20 minutes to go back and review the very first segment, and then staff's gonna walk through, here's what we're suggesting we do with this segment. Here's what we're suggesting we implement. Here's what we're suggesting the direction we go and what we wanna get out of it. And so we'll do rural tourism at our next meeting, and then every month we'll follow up, because they did send us homework. I didn't pass the homework out to the group because it was like, how do you do, it was month of homework to do in 2 or 3 days. So staff will, to take advantage fully of this, staff will be implementing the homework as we go forward. And then you, as an advisory board, will kind of oversee that process. So I want you to know Kraft is gonna be with us for the rest of this year, and we're gonna try and wring it just like a wash rag. We're gonna try and wring everything we can out of it, because
Don't
I
pull the
agreed with
strong
what
points
Tom
out.
said. It's the techniques, it's the thought processes, it's the strategy, and that's what we need. That's why we did it. Jonathan, I agree with Craig that Jonathan did many, many wonderful things. What I've heard from you, and whenever you shift from one director to another, is what I consistently heard from you in February when we sat down, or January, was you wanted transparency with finances. So that was something that maybe you felt like you didn't have before. So we're gonna have so much transparency that, that you will be able to know and be seeing financially where we're going. And we really need that relationship between staff and board, because why would we get all of these techniques, and why would we get all of this strategy if we're not gonna apply that to the funding that we have? And my goal, I think, as the director, is to help empower Raven as we go through this, to do more and more and more. So you're gonna see by December me shifting some of the analysis responsibilities and reporting responsibilities to Raven. It's not to manage it at this level indefinitely, but I will be your director, and I will be at all your meetings, and I will be at the strategic level, talking with the board about how we make long-term investments, taking that message to council, and building through Karen that relationship. So I think Raven and I are going to be consistently with you, and we'll be looking at Raven's job description as part of Kraft. When we come out of this, they're gonna give us some suggestions on how Raven works with the board and where that goes. Next thing, the trolley video not working. Can anyone give me some feedback? Craig made a comment, the trolley sits in the garage with a video not working.
I don't think it's a video not working, it's not working
It's
for,
the content.
it's the content.
Content.
Okay, I will have to see that.
Yeah,
I-
and the hard part about that is the trolley has always only operated in Trinidad, except for special occasions between May and September. It hasn't operated in the sun.
Since we're meeting in there on the 16th, why don't we view the trolley video at our meeting? Why don't we view the
I've
trolley
seen
video
it.
at our
Yeah.
meeting,
I've
and we'll
seen it.
talk
I
about
hate it.
that.
It is,
Okay,
it
so
is.
let's talk about what we don't like about it, and that is something we can address. It's easily something we can address. On Memorial Day, it may not roll out with something new, but there's no reason we can't fix that. It says in the bylaws for tourism, all members must have a business. It does not say that. And in reference to Mr. Kress's appointment, it says everyone who's seated on the board must have a tourism interest. The only two businesses that are required are lodging and restaurant. And if Craig does follow through and resign, we will need to seek a new restaurateur to sit on the board. Ms. Campbell, Mr. Kress, and Ms. Blackman Burrows sit in member at large. Member at large must have a tourism interest. Tourism interest is broadly defined by council. Mr. Kress's application obviously mentioned he'd been with Trinidadio for many years. You're very qualified to sit on the board. Miss Camilla has a shop downtown. When Miss Blackman Burrows was first seated, she was involved with the ghost tours. And that business no longer is there, but Carol has remained involved in tourism. So that is up to council to determine what a tourism interest means, so just to clarify that.
Right.
When Ms. Garrett in the clerk's office advertises, she specifically lists, and anyone can come up and apply for that, and then council determines. While we're on that, I do want to talk about something council's going to discuss tonight, which is a new process for seating members to the board. So we have developed a one-page application. So let's say when this seat becomes open, if it does, Ms. Garrett will advertise. And let's say Mr. Doe, John Doe, the citizen, fills out an application to sit on tourism. That will come to me. We will invite him to come to your meeting. You'll interact with him him or her, for 1 or 2 meetings. You'll have the application in your packet. Then I will ask you to give me some feedback, and then I will consolidate that feedback back to council as we feel like Mr. Doe doesn't meet the qualifications because he's not engaged in tourism activities to the point that it would make sense, or we feel like he does, and here are the ways that we feel like that person would contribute to the board. The idea is not to seat all your friends, the idea is to look for what we're missing.
So, in other words, the next position that will be, it'll come out of the food industry.
It'll have to come out of the food industry,
Is there-
And that's the way it'll be advertised.
and that'll the way it'll be advertised. We have to have a lodging and a restaurant and a hotel.
See, and
then the
that's,
rest
and
is at
that's,
large.
that's the direction that makes everything good, is
Mhm.
we just start following it, you know, is that.
Are there any open board members?
Just that
seats?
one,
Just that one.
if Mr. Stevens
And
resigns.
she qualifies, or if there's an error.
And we'll follow up with Carol to find out, because she did indicate she'd be here, so I have no idea why she wouldn't be here. In terms of his sweeping up of the dog stuff on the sidewalk, I'll just talk to Public Works regarding that. So those were my responses to really what Mr. Stevens reported, and once again, I will meet with him. I thought that was unfortunate. Craft Studio 101, so we've been through the 4 instructions. We have 8 modules, which we'll go through, and we'll have 8 sets of homework. So every month we'll be going through this between now and December. The next 2 meetings are to put together a marketing plan of some sort. So to answer a question that came up earlier, all of the marketing money that you see in the budget was committed prior to this year. So when we come back with you in the next couple of weeks, we will bring to you what the commitments are, so that you don't just see that 212,000 and think, well, that's all spendable. We'll come back and say, what of that 212,000 remaining is actually committed? So why a marketing plan? What we're suggesting to the craft folks is that we need some direction in the board for 2019 about how to reinvest the lodging tax. We'll have about 250,000. We're gonna come to you in August at your very first meeting with a rough draft budget for next year. So think that's only 5 meetings from now. We're gonna be talking about what we anticipate the revenue will be for 2019 based on where we are in 2018 in August, and what we think of that the trolley will require, what we think of that the Welcome Center will require, and then what we think based on the current salary scheme that will require. And then you will have to start making some decisions about the remainder of that and how to invest it. So if it's ad buys, okay, if it's social media, okay, if it's a public relations plan, okay. If you want to invest in a very extensive marketing plan, okay, but we still need to know how to invest the money for 2019. So what our opportunity with the last 2 craft meetings tomorrow on the 2nd and then on the 15th is to get some feedback from the small committee of how they think it should be invested, and that's all that is. Ultimately, it will be, the decision will be made here, but we've got about 10 to 12 people that have been consistently participating in Vivica. There's some staff, you guys, Jeff Peterson, Kirby Stokes. These are the folks that we've got coming tomorrow. We hope if you can come in and out, I know you're traveling. We'd love to have you there, because this is the point at which the community the experts walk us through what that plan's gonna look like. What I'm hoping comes out of it is, here are the 6 channels, ways you're gonna spend that money. Here is the ways you shouldn't spend that money, like USA Today would be something that's not that large national advertising.
Right.
Would be something that we're not, but Facebook advertising might be something that they say. And then the second thing I'd like to come out of it is, what's the general message? What they said they would lead us through tomorrow is 3 columns of assets. What do you have now on the ground you can market? What's tourism ready? What's in the process of being developed, and what's the dream? Because a lot of people talk about different things they think ought to be marketed, and I think it's really important we look at what we should market now that people can come and see. So do you guys have any feedback or questions about the next 2 meetings? Tomorrow's is at the Trinidad History Museum. It'll be from 8:30 to 4. And that's what we'll be working and talking through
I'm
this.
excited about it because I really.
This is finally the doing. We're no more lecturing, no more PowerPoint. We're creating the documents.
Okay.
Okay, that studio, Welcome Center staffing update. In your packets, you have a job description for the Welcome Center manager and event planner. I want to tell you that council has given Tourism Board $50,000 a year for 2 years. So we have $100,000 we'll be adding to the line item for staffing in the Welcome Center. $50,000 this year and $50,000 next year.
Okay.
That helps a
Okay.
little bit.
So that helps?
That helps.
Since we
Thank
were like,
you.
we were really
Thank you.
scraping by, Karen, we were
Yeah.
scraping by knowing that there was all of a sudden $68,000 was out of our budget, we were like,
But the
Yeah, I
reason
didn't
that,
realize
yeah, the reason that that is happening is because we've combined. Council allocated that for the event planner position.
I know.
We're combining that with the Welcome Center manager
I was, I was gonna
position.
make my husband apply for that thing until it got
Okay.
combined, and then that was.
Yeah.
That's all right,
So
though.
it's a Wednesday through Sunday job, as you can see in there. The way I believe this is gonna be the very first step toward reorganizing the Welcome Center. So this is gonna stay under my staff report every time until we have the Welcome Center reorganized. Tom, since you're just joining, and Karen, you may or may not realize this, we currently have 5 employees at the Welcome Center. 4 are all 5 are part-time. 1 has the title Assistant Welcome Center Manager. The other 4 have the title Tourism Associate, or Welcome Center Associate is the title. So this is the very first step in reorganizing the entire system. Right now, you have budgeted for salary at the Welcome Center, $62,000, and the current salaries of the 5 employees add up to $65,000. So here's how I'm anticipating we're reorganizing. If you take this 62, it's actually, that's with all the that's with Social Security, it's actually a base of 58,000. You take that base of 58,000 and you add the 50,000 council has given us, we have 108,000 salary, no benefits, no Social Security, Medicare. Of that 108,000, it's gonna depend on who we hired for this. The top salary range, it's like 42,500 to 45,000 is the salary range for this position. If we hire someone that is married and has children and that's the full benefit package, that $45,000 job is $68,000 in cost for salary. So if you take the 108,000 available out of salary and you subtract 68,000 from that, that leaves us only, and it will be enough, 40,000 for the remaining Welcome Center staff. So once we have the manager on and hired, we're gonna sit down and start talking about how to rearrange the Welcome Center. It's my belief it will take 3 as a minimum to staff the Welcome Center, which means we would have 40,000 for the remaining 2 part-time employees. So stay tuned. I'll keep coming back every 2 weeks. We anticipate doing interviews for this position Dawn and I just talked about it, on May 14th, so I'll be able to give you an update on the 16th as to where we are. Right now, we have Cy invited to the interviews if you're available on May 14th. If you're not, as vice chair, we would ask Camilla. We are also asking 2 other community members to participate in that. So,
How many applicants?
we have 9 applicants.
Wow.
So it closed on Friday.
One of the things that I just, like,
Yeah.
the brochures and stuff that come into the Welcome Center, are they paid by the city?
They're all free.
Oh, they're all free?
They're part of the state Welcome Center program.
Okay, because for years I delivered to the Welcome Center.
All the jurisdictions pay for them to come.
And I just seen so much waste. You know, that was one of the things, and
Tons.
that was my concern, is if they were paid for by us.
One of the things that the state Welcome Center program is doing is they're streamlining the brochures. At one point in time, I think we were required to have somewhere around 160 different ones, and they're really cutting that list down and streamlining. So this job has 2 functions. One is Welcome Center manager, the other is event planner. I've already kind of thought about what the first 90-day scope of work is, and it's gonna lean more heavily on the Welcome Center manager aspect because of that reorganization. And then there are certain things with event planner that person will jump into as we're heading into tourism season. And then there are other things by the time we get to the winter that event planner will do. And one of those is gonna be, the mayor has asked that we start looking at the annual calendar and where we're gonna fill in some holes and where we may need to help support some event development of additional events, with the idea being that we have a year-round calendar for tourism board to market. So this position will report to me. You're gonna pay the salary out of this. 50,000 of the salary is coming from marijuana money. So the salary bucket for the Welcome Center, as I said, that there's 58,000 from tourism, and then 50,000 from marijuana money that go into that bucket. And that's for 2 years. So in other words, we're gonna give this position 2 years to move us into maybe a convention and visitors bureau. We're gonna make an investment in developing additional tourism traffic. Do you have any questions about the job description or the process? And you'll look at your calendar, Si, for Monday, May 14th. Okay, and then,
One of the questions I had when you said, I thought
Sure.
that we had changed the name of the board to the CTTB or something.
so I changed it back to the Trinidad Tourism Board. I know that at the top of your minutes, it says Trinidad's Visitor Bureau. So that was not changed by council. By ordinance, you are the Trinidad Tourism Board. And we can certainly talk about making yourself a Visitors Bureau and what that would mean. Without a full-time staffed director, that
Right.
usually is the difference between a tourism board and a convention and visitors bureau.
And that's
I
fine.
think
with me.
moving
We
in
were
that
just
direction-
told, So I'm trying to.
So, by official ordinance, you are the City of Trinidad Tourism Board.
That's what I had presented.
So everything that we put out from now on will have City of Trinidad Tourism Board on it, okay? Okay, so that was my 2 reports. I think Raven has the distribution report.
So we got our visitor's guides in a couple of days ago. So I'm wondering, do you guys still want to hand those out in person, or do we want to stick with this email thing for a little while?
So let's talk about distribution. So when we place an ad like the one that you paid for here in Miles Media, the Colorado Vacation Guide, what we get back is we get back a list of folks who have gone into the Colorado State Vacation Guide and they saw the Trinidad ad and they asked for information to be sent to them. So for a while, Cy from the hotel was stuffing envelopes and sending those out. And then my understanding for a long while nobody responded. So people who sent, when we placed an ad in a magazine, there's always a code. We would get labels sometimes, or sometimes just names and addresses of people who wanted information. So I believe earlier this year, Andrew and Raven developed a digital copy of the original visitor's guide
Nice.
there. And so when we received inquiries, we responded if they provided an email address with digital. We need to have a plan for distribution. My thought is twofold. I haven't seen, because Raven gets them, but Cy sees them.
It's actually one of those really, really, really one of the most frustrating
Okay,
aspects
why don't you talk about
of
this then?
tourism for me. So, about 3 years ago, we didn't have anybody that was doing it, so I had my staff and myself when people would do it, we actually did it, so when they're sitting at the front desk, we did it for a long time, and I was so frustrated because I did it for a year and nobody at the city was doing it. So then finally, Jonathan said, we're gonna take it over and we're gonna start sending them out. And still, they never went out. And now, from Colorado, we get a listing of people's names and addresses. And Karen, years ago, we used to get on that Colorado site 8 to 15 names.
Yeah.
Now, every other week, we get 50 names, 60 names, people that want it, and they're still not going out. And so they developed this digital copy that could go out, but that's been one of my, and you have to know it. So I've sent numerous emails because they're still not going out like they're supposed to go out. So it's been so frustrating for me because when people go on Colorado.com, it's not an easy thing. How many times do you go to that site and you actually fill your name out? You fill your...
Right.
You know, this takes time because all you do is look at something else. You've got the gadget in your hand that you can find out. When you do that much effort to get information about a city, I want to make sure that they're getting a reply from me. And when I hear they aren't, it's like a slap in the face to the guests that took the time. So I'm so overly frustrated at that's not happening yet.
So one of my suggestions for how to solve this is at one point in time, we had a contract with the chamber back when, and they did the distribution. I think eventually that might be a solution once, because the Chamber of Commerce is kind of bulking themselves up again. But right now, since the Welcome Center came inside the Tourism Board, my suggestion is that we begin in May with the next set of leads going to the Welcome Center staff and having them prepare the distribution and mail these out. Now, it would require purchasing envelopes that this could be slipped in.
I thought that was designed, we had it designed so that it would have a thing.
Thank
And so
you.
that
Stand right there, and then
Perfect.
just address
That's the
them right
reason why
there
we
and
had
where
it
they
designed
go.
that
Perfect,
way.
and away they go.
And as a side note, I got one yesterday.
Hey, that's
So they forward them to me and to another address of the city that no longer exists.
Okay.
There's over 70 names.
So what we need,
this week.
Si, immediately is even if you're still copied, we need those to come to my email address.
They come to information, they come to the address that I guess nobody looks at anymore.
What's it called?
So
Yeah,
then I forward them to verify that everybody sees them, that's what I'm doing. Because I get copied, I forward them and say, hey guys, we got some more names, please let me know when they get sent out, and then
I want to go back to the source and correct the email,
yeah.
the email to come into the department.
And at one point it was, because Jonathan said he had tagged himself for a while, but it's not in there either.
Okay.
So somebody's been contacted.
Okay,
about
so
it.
we'll work out the logistics with Si, but do you agree that we should be sending these out?
Yeah, all you have to do is handwrite, don't you
And
handwrite?
Camilla, because
And
I've been on
I
this
said I
track
would
for
do
a
it
long time,
too,
Camilla.
because all we need to do is put
offered
those
to do it.
stickies on and stick them in the mail, bulk mail.
And they can sit at the counter, Camilla, and do the labels, so that it looks professional.
And I do have a labeling in my shop that I could just put the
If
kick
they
out
come
labels.
in Excel, you ought to be able to just
Right,
mail merge
yeah.
them
Yeah.
and print a whole
Yes,
list of
that's
labels.
exactly
Okay,
right. Mine
so,
would be the opposite.
so we'll work with Si, but move to the distribution. Do you guys agree that if you
Yes.
sign up, you should get something in the mail rather than digital?
Yeah, we even figured out the cost of these two, they were weighed, so they'd stayed within a certain amount, so that we could,
Right.
Okay. And then, so you'll know in the next couple of months what that costs, because there'll be on your monthly, there'll be a bill for those of you who've been on for a while. Remember the postage line
Yeah.
item, so there'll be postage that the city will charge back to
so it goes to
tourism.
info@historictrinidad.com.
No, I think that has been taken
To wow
down.
yourself and feel how good Trinidad is marketing themselves, this is the email that people have filled out. You can see all their addresses, their email address, their home address, list yesterday.
Just please forward
All that
that to me
effort.
this morning. Yeah. Okay, so that's how we'll handle distribution, okay? Thank you, Si.
No, thank you for all your hard work.
We're gonna get
You
this
just
done.
got- Yeah, okay.
We'll get it done. This is just the beginning.
Okay.
Is there any possibility that some of the work that you're doing with Tourism Board can be transferred to the event planner slash?
Between Raven, myself, this new position, and then we reorganize and we may have 2 assistant managers over there, and that may be how we handle the 40, or we may have tourism associates, and those associates will actually be the ones eventually that are doing this project. So every time we meet like this and a job comes out of it, then my job eventually will be, we'll divide that up between these 3 or 4 people and have them bring it all back to me. So my anticipation is when we get this up and running, this staffed and up and running, is that I'll truly be able to serve as the director. I'm sensitive to that. Next item, sign. And it's size requests back by popular demand. Approval of the bills.
Approval of the bills, yes, there we go,
There we go, you got it.
So this is gonna be on every agenda. This is what city council's considering tonight. Normally, our meetings will be on Wednesday, so you'll see it the day after council approves it. What your approval will do is release the check. So council may approve it to be paid, as they do every single dollar that's paid out in the city. But tourism board will release these checks. They get printed on Friday. They'll get printed on Friday after your meeting. So let's hypothetically say the first line item for Mount Carmel Health and Wellness, you decide you want to dispute that amount, or you decide that shouldn't belong in the tourism line item. Even though council approves it, all the checks will be held until I go down and release the checks for these, until you approve them. Does everybody agree that, and then what you'll see at the next meeting is those amounts will come over in the expended to date. So this first line item will be reimbursed by Colorado Tourism, the $1338.50. It's part of the CRAFT initiative. So we'll fill out the form and provide that invoice to Miss Jill, and we'll receive a check back from that. So you'll see that on revenue eventually, okay? Andrew attended the Welcome Center Manager's mandatory meeting. This is his gas and 1 meal up and back from Fort Collins. He did that for me because I was not able to go myself 2 weeks ago. I mentioned to you that the trolley storage hadn't been paid since the first of the year, so you're gonna see Mr. Iupa will be getting January through May. So that amount right there, that was one of the great things about doing this exercise, is we noticed that that hadn't been done. That's normally just triggered out of finance department. And then here's payroll. I did meet with Donna this morning, and I'm asking for payroll to be divided into 3 lines. So you're gonna see payroll trolley, payroll welcome center, and payroll tourism. So there'll be 3 line items going forward. It'll probably be June before that happens, but we'll eventually have that. So, Ms. Si, I'll take a motion, a second, and approval of these.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve these?
I motion to approve these.
And Chris, okay.
Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, so for finances, is this gonna be transparent enough, do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And then we have our next 3 meetings. We're back on our Wednesday schedules. Thank you for changing as we have craft tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, so that was the reason, because Colorado Tourism Office is in town tomorrow, so didn't want
We
to
couldn't
postpone the meeting, because.
Not be there.
Right, right.
Right.
So, and the meetings that we have changed, they've always been block hard reasons, they've never been that we've decided we're not doing anything.
Do you think it would be beneficial if I went and talked to Mr. Craig too?
Maybe.
I'll talk to him too, yes,
Maybe.
Well,
anybody.
because I understand his frustration.
As counsel, that might make a lot of sense, I think. You know, he brings a voice that's important.
He does.
It's not resigned until he gives his letter to Audrey.
Right.
I'll talk to him, because I understand exactly how he feels.
And I know that the only thing that concerned me in everything that he said was that the craft,
Yeah.
was the comment about craft, because we're gonna live with this for the rest of the year. So I would hate to frustrate him every meeting when I keep bringing it back up and the homework that comes out of it. But council did a resolution, you guys voted in your meeting to do it, so
I think we're all on
We're committed.
the thing of what we come out of it. Everybody comes out of it in a different.
different way.
And there are recipes for success.
There
It's
is.
like becoming educated for different reasons. And so their recipe for success to help the state in different areas of tourism, they're trying to bring it forward. Surely some of the stuff, because they bring in a world of knowledge, we don't really need here in Trinidad, and there's others, but there's an importance to still going through the process.
Well, for me, just my first experience with the whole thing was, it was good for me because, you know, it gave me vision as to, I look at Trinidad as a whole. What do we have to offer?
And vision is so important.
You know, and we do have a lot to offer. You know, we just have to build on it.
We do. We do.
Raven, did all 20,000 come? Did we get the second cover or just the first cover?
We got both covers and it was
40,000 then.
37 something, but they did distribute the other ones
To the Welcome Center,
centers.
so we have 37,000 on hand right now, so we're good. They are at Space to Create. Turns out we don't have any place to put 19 pallets.
I need some for the hotel. People have actually been asking since we've been out. It's
Yeah.
been very popular at the hotel.
I'm hoping for Friday I
Maybe in
can get 2 pallets over to the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
I can bring
Right,
boxes
right.
over.
Get a semi.
So when we do our distribution report at the next meeting, we're gonna be able to tell you where these have been distributed and how many went out, so. I think that's what we had. Do you wanna adjourn, Ms. Sy? At 10:54, that was perfect timing.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for your.
Thank you.
Thanks for your being here. Thanks for Craig and anybody who sat on this board to do stuff. The board has done a lot of incredible stuff over the years. Sometimes there's hiccups. It's hard dealing with government. It's not saying that any of us have been sitting still. We've all worked really hard. I think Raven will try to get you some notes and stuff on things, but I think really, if I was coming onto the board, one of the ways that I would really appreciate, and one of the ways I thought that you should have been included, is to have copies of the notes of the meetings. Then you know what's been going on in the meetings and what's been going on.
So what we'll do then, when Raven completes the notes for this meeting, is we'll send this entire packet to Carol, since she has this one.